Hey, how's it going? Jackson here. Today we're talking about how I spam one strategy and grew my Instagram account to 24,000 followers in 4 months with it. When you break it down, it's pretty easy. And I know a lot of people struggle with growth and I want to help. So if you don't know me, I'm Jackson Sword. I have a company called Parasocial in which I'm the lead creative director. If you don't know what that is, essentially we partner with founders, build out their personal brand and help them kind of use that personal brand for conversions or whatever they really want to do with it. I've worked with companies like FIA and as of today, Instagram, and social. So I've been making content for 10 or 11 years at this point, but for like half of those years I had no idea what I was doing. And after I graduated college, I was like, damn, I probably should figure that out if I want to make this my full-time job. So I did, and I'm going to share literally the exact step-by-step process I did to do that with you. So here's how to grow your page while helping a ton of people and in turn creating more lead magnets than you know what to do with. I built my entire career thus far off of it, and I don't know why every creator who is under 1,000 or 10,000 followers isn't doing this. Like, it's really good. So the way to grow is pretty simple. You're just basically dumping value to a younger version of yourself. That's pretty much the only person you're 100% qualified to talk to, and you basically just want to give them the advice that you wish you had at your previous stage. So you end up with followers who are just like you, so you end up with a fantastic community of like-minded individuals, and because you've given away all of this value, you have put the average viewer into value debt. Am I like too short? Guys, I promise I'm 6 foot. Okay, well, so much for consistency, right? And because you're just continually dumping so much value about the things that your audience needs to hear, they get put into value debt. And value debt is the only good debt in the world, is what I'm convinced of. Okay, for example, say you have this one friend that always gave you good advice curated on exactly what you wanted to achieve and who will help you out all the time without asking anything back for a year. That was the 20th take. If after that year of helping you out all the time and relentlessly dumping value onto you, if they asked you, hey, John, I'm doing this thing where I'm basically working one-on-one with people to give them all this value that I give away from free, but in a more curated experience with all these bells and whistles and softwares, and there's a guarantee that you grow and make money. Would you want to work with that person? Yes, you'd probably be more inclined because of how much they have helped you in the past. And juxtaposed to that, imagine you have this guy who has only been asking for your money. He's always trying to funnel you into something you don't really want to do, and his advice is mediocre. You're not really going to want to work with him. So we want to be the former, and the way we do that is through value debt. And because we're putting all of our viewers into value debt, it's really easy to kind of establish that level of trust that we need to, convert our page in the future once we get to that stage, because we don't want to sell before we have the authority to do so. I'm leaving that in. And it's the same online. You're giving people value over and over and over again, and they're accomplishing what they want to accomplish, and you're the one that helped facilitate that. So in their eyes, you're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And people are very grateful for free help because a lot of beginners don't really know exactly what to do, and they don't have the funds to, purchase a higher ticket or even a lower ticket offer in some cases. And we want to make sure that we're, helping out the little guys sometimes, because those little guys can become big guys. And then anyways, it's a nice thing you're doing and you're helping people out. And then, that goodwill is passed back on to you in the future. But how do we practically curate this process on Instagram or any other platform? Okay, so from 0 to 10K, the process that I followed. So my content is about content. So while I was improving, I was making free resources on the things that I learned that actually made me better. So a really positive feedback loop. Obviously, whatever you make content about, you're going to want to curate the free resources on that, but still you're going to get better at what you're selling in the process of making quality free resources for that thing. So step 1 is creating a free resource on a topic you're very knowledgeable about. And step 2 is taking the sparkness of that resource and putting it in an insanely valuable short form video for your audience to consume. And step 3 is having the CTA of that video be an automation that checks if they're following you. If not, it requests it, and then whenever they are following, or if they do follow from that action, they get their full free resource. They're happy because they have the value that they so desperately want, and the pain of following you is less than the pain of not having the information that you want to offer for free. And because following is a free action, it works. So you grow and they get the solid value. And because you post consistent value, they're only having to follow once, and the value just keeps stacking up and up and up. The only payment they make is that first initial follow. And that's how you really create a just die-hard audience that trusts you more than anything. I've been really fortunate to interact with a lot of my audience, and they're all wonderful, amazing people. In fact, through all the videos I've posted over the last 6 months, I've gotten one hate comment. And, and that's it. Because people typically aren't mad at you for giving away free value if it actually works. The key point here is to not bullshit anyone, because they're going to know. And that just kind of ruins your personal brand. You don't want a brand built on lies and facades. So now we need to know how to make a fire-free resource and how to make fantastic content. Obviously, content is a long game, but I'm going to give you the spark notes on how to get good really fast. And while you make all of these wonderful valuable videos, you will improve along the way. And obviously there's more videos on my channel about how to get better at content, right? So a solid video has 3 components: good visuals, good editing, and a good script. The first 2 are more subjective. Good editing and good visuals are really up to taste. And there's 1,000 trillion billion 100 million videos online about how to get good at those 2 things. But in terms of all 3, the main lack of skill that I see is the skill of scripting. It's really crucial for growth on Instagram. You only have about like 60 seconds to get an entire complex idea across. And if we don't know how to use those 60 seconds to the best of our ability, it's gonna be really hard to have your retention graph not go like So here's how to script videos that hook people in, connect with them, set up the value, and get them to perform a CTA to get even more value, and then follow you for it. So the first part of any script is the hook. So if the script is the most important part, the hook is like the most important part of the most important part. Any value-based video needs to have a payoff that is a solution to a deep pain that your target avatar feels. So if you're unsure what that is, because we're talking to our younger selves, we know that any struggle that you face is going to be equivalent to anyone in your audience. So it's really just a matter of fact of looking back in your story and being like, damn, what did I really struggle with for a long time? I'm in accordance to your niche, obviously. So now that you know the pain, what were the steps you took to remove yourself from it? And now how do you benefit on the other side? Obviously, looking back, hindsight's 2020. So you want to give that 2020 vision to someone who is blind currently. This was very ambitious of me for for a first YouTube video back. I made the short form video, a shorter version of this, to show you how to do the value depth process, and because you're watching this, it proves that it works. I don't know if that was smart or stupid. I don't know how I haven't edited the video yet, but yeah, we're getting meta. So for my hook for the video that got you here, I said,
here's the exact strategy that I used to gain 24,000 followers in 4 months after failing for 10 years straight.
So the pain that I spoke of in my reel was me struggling for a really long time with content and finally understanding how to use value debt to grow, much like the longer form video that we're doing right now. And the solution was that I found this magical value debt secret that allowed me to grow at such a rate that it was very desirable to a lot of people. Thus, they commented, and now you are here. And the second part of the script is a pain-filled backstory. And this part's a little bit simpler. You're basically just surrounding the pain point with the story that you have already lived, simplifying it down to like a 5th grade level, and then just like stacking and throwing as many keywords as you can onto the backstory so people's ears are like perking up when they hear it. So a lot of times I'll use words like overwhelmed, burnt out, confused. These are really applicable to, literally any niche. The biggest pain points you see when working with clients, you just kind of take those, simplify it, and then chuck it in the backstory, and people are like, okay, I understand what we're talking about, like this makes sense. The reason we want a 5th grade level is because that is the average comprehension on Instagram and online in general, which is crazy. And you save eloquent words for longer formats. So for me, because I tried making content for 10 years and it sucked, I said,
like from the time that I was 12 to 21, I gained a total of 727 followers across every single platform. However, when I graduated from college this year and wanted to go full time, I knew I didn't have another 10 years to spare.
So my story in this video casted a wide net of no followers, no views, bad content, no growth, and just kind of slogging away, which is reminiscent of a lot of creators' journeys and probably why you even clicked on this video in the first place. So now that we've really dug deep in the pain, we've promised that there's a solution that we haven't said yet, and we've really showed them that we've been where they are. We get into the breaking point. This needs to be a moment that everything changed, not a gradual process. It needs to feel instantaneous. You need the spark notes of the free resources value to feel actionable within 24 hours. Obviously, there is no magic fix to a lot of long-term pain that people feel, but the action in the video needs to feel like if you follow steps 1, 2, and 3, you're going to see some improvement almost immediately. This is because most people that take action on a video, like save, comment, or like, never watch it again, or they'll save the video knowing it's valuable, but they will never act beyond that, if that makes sense. They'll just be like, okay, like this is good to know, and they'll never go and learn, which is kind of nice because the actual action takers will start to go through your funnel, and those are the people you want to work with because they, have a drive to get something done beyond just like saving an Instagram reel. And that's why it's still important to provide value on like a Spark Notes version for the people who are more surface level or, not at the stage of their life where they can pursue something very seriously. But it's also good to have the back end value because when people are going through, they're getting so much sauce and they're just like, okay, this is awesome. People on both sides of the coin are winning. And yeah, it can be as simple as I went and did research. A lot of people don't do that. You would think it's common sense, but it's just like an action they can take. And it's, obviously something you can do in about a day. And then step 4 is the actual value delivery. And this is also extremely important because if you're delivering the value wrong, it gets confusing. And this kind of plays into viewer comprehension of your videos. If viewers are not comprehending, they're getting confused, they're leaving, they're scrolling away, and they're not taking the actions we want them to take. So making sure that the value that you're giving and know a lot about is received well is like obviously very crucial. And because I'm just so smart and such a genius, I created a framework for this, just help my clients conceptualize it a bit more. But it's the what, how, why framework. Write that down. And this is again because it's really hard to explain complex topics in under 60 seconds. So you start with the what, and this is very straightforward. What is the value that you are going to elaborate on through the rest of the sequence? Think of it as a 1 to 2 second temperature check for the viewer. So after they've gone through the hook and the backstory, they need to know that, okay, it's value time. Let me lock in real quick. So now that they know what they're looking at, we get into the how. So how does the value actually work? Typically, it's either a step-by-step process or a list of generally related tips, but it's basically like when they get the value, how do they implement it in a way that works for them, that's not too complicated, and there's not a lot of friction for, new adopters. And then 3 is why they desperately need it. Like, there's only a few things in the world that people know they desperately need, like money and good health and like a place to live. But for your value that you're presenting needs to feel like a necessity. And when you make your value feel like a need instead of a want, that's when people are taking the action and, commenting whatever the keyword is. And this goes into the last part of the script, the call to action placement. And I hear a lot of gurus online say to put the CTA at the end. That's where people think that it should live. That is wrong. 95% of people aren't making it all the way through your video, like on average. So if I was gonna give them value already in the second half, why would I delay calling them to do the action that, in turn Instagram considers engagement, then push the video out more so then more people get the value, and it's kind of that positive feedback loop. If your call to action is at the minute 30 mark, the amount of people that are getting there is very low, unless your video is absolutely drop dead phenomenal. And at the start, as a new creator, it's pretty hard to understand all of the little micro skills you need to push people there. So I say to place it around like the 2/3 mark. And I typically segue into this by being like, oh, by the way, just something as simple as that. It just kind of helps go from whatever I'm talking about, because it's not at the end. It's not like the finisher. It's not the period of the video sentence. It's just like a thing you're throwing in there, and you kind of want it to feel spontaneous and random, so it catches them off guard, but they're still understanding what they're getting called to do. It's very important to explain what the call to action is. So it's like comment blank to get this thing, or the full guide of what I'm explaining right now. So in my call to action that called you to this action of watching the video, I said,
But after months of gaining no followers, I finally discovered how to grow using value debt. So here's how you can use it to blow up your account. First, you need 2 things: easy, fast value in your video and a full in-depth guide. Basically, you put everything you know in the guide, but only the 3 best tips in the video. Then you tease the free resource in the video with a comment CTA. For example, comment value debt on this video for the entire step-by-step process. Then in your ManyChat automation, you ask for a follow for even more value. And make sure you have the condition to check if they actually followed. So they get value and you grow. It's a win-win. Anyways.
So now your video starts with a pain that pulls people in, promises a payoff, delivers a solution in a way that they understand, and gets them to perform a CTA to get even more value in the future. Speaking of this full value, how do we make good free resources? Because the worst thing you can do is get someone to perform an action and then under-deliver on, the promise of more value. The best place to host guides is in Notion. Notion is probably my favorite app at this point, but in terms of note-taking, I truly believe it is unmatched. My process for making high-quality free resources is 1, word vomiting everything I know about a topic into Notion. And once I have that conglomerate of awful words, I copy and paste that into ChatGPT or Claude. And I don't have a go-to prompt, but it's typically along the lines of, you're an expert in niche format, but do not change the information below in a way that would allow a complete beginner to understand the entire process step by step. And you can also say, add any information that would help facilitate this process, but that's up to your discretion. And regardless of whether you have ChatGPT add to it or not, you want to go back and clean it up and make it human. The worst thing you can do is promise the viewer something and then deliver them ChatGPT slop. Even if you've written most of it and all the knowledge is coming from you, ChatGPT is very noticeable if you, are on the internet at all. I also like Notion for the fact that you can, make it pretty. You can have drop downs and colors and whatnot, and just in doing so, it really helps humanize it. And what I love even more about Notion is that every single page you make, they have like a free hosting service basically. So you set your notes live. You can make like a hub for all of your free resources. So when you send someone one free resource, they technically get access to all the others. So you have this compounding effect of debt onto the viewer, all for free, all within Notion. And then all you have to do to share your notes is just copy and paste the live link of the webpage into the ManyChat. Notion. And that process just allows you to base your resources in your own knowledge base without spending all day writing paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. And lastly, setting up the ManyChat automation. Because I love you, I made a custom ManyChat automation just for this video that has everything I'm about to go through, but it's also important you understand what I'm about to go through so that if you want to customize it or use ManyChat for yourself in the future, you're not like, what the hell is going on? So setting up a ManyChat is really easy. First, you sign in with Instagram. You're going to blank automation. You're setting up the trigger to be when someone comments on all of your post or reels. This is so that when if you post this reel to trial reels later down the line, the keyword will still be detected and you won't have to make an automation for each video. And because the first message is being sent as a comment reply, I treat it as like a door. Hey, thanks so much for commenting. Are you good with me sending all this stuff over? And then they're going to say yeah, because they're already commented. And sometimes people won't have the feature where anyone can DM them on Instagram, and they're just missing out. And then I have the first condition here, because if they're already following, you don't want to be like, hey, follow me, because it kind of looks weird. So if they're already following and they get the free resource, you go, thank you so much, yay. On the other end of that condition, you're asking, it's like, hey, I put a lot of time and effort into this. Do you mind following? And you'll be surprised how many people will just straight up lie here. They'll be like, yeah, man, of course, because they don't think you're going to check. And then I have a kind of like call out sequence in there. So, if you're like, hey, please follow me, they're like, yeah, of course. The automation says liar, liar, pants on fire. So really professional stuff. and calling them out in this way, they're more likely to actually perform the action. Even if they want to unfollow you later, that's fine. It's really good to get your Instagram account warm and people are following and interacting with it and really anyway. And I typically loop around 3 to 4 times. You ask them to follow you like 4 times and they don't, just give them the knowledge, don't gatekeep. And maybe later down the line they'll follow you because you're a chill guy or girl and whatever, right? And you want the right people to be following you. So if you're missing on a follower who doesn't like your stuff, it's really not a loss at all. And then once you set that up and set it live, post your video and grow. And it's this really cool compounding effect, because the better the value is, the more people comment, the more engagement the video gets, the more views the video gets, and the more people comment and then follow you and whatnot and so forth. That's how you use value to grow on Instagram. I'll see you next week.